Good morning. We're going to talk about a practical problem in finance. The president has announced what's really a pretty laudable goal, the idea that the mortgages should be available. They should be 30 years and it should be a fixed rate. And he really wants this, and it's understandable. It's a difficult goal. The stress in mortgages when it's fixed rate, and particularly when it's artificially low, is upon the lending institutions. And banks are not happy to be in this position. And so there's a matter of how can we do this. Number one, we have to look at the length of the loans. 30 years has been traditional. It's really bad when the rates are artificially low and the probability of rates rising, of inflation during this 30 years is very high. And the banks do not want to be in the situation of the savings and loan institutions. Understandably, they're happy to do the initial work, but they really don't want to take the responsibility. So we're left in a situation where we have to make changes. The first change is to recognize that 30 years is much too long. Things happen. A significant inflation during that time is very likely, and it has to be lowered. Even though this is not what we want to do, I'd strongly suggest going down to 20 years. 20 years. This allows most of the interest to be paid in the earlier years. At the end, you're just repaying the loan, the principal, and this would not solve the problem, but would be better. The bank should be asked how much of these loans do they want to carry. If it's a matter that they simply don't want to carry them and they just want to write them, that's fine. But in that case, that makes them simply the agents of writing out the loan, and they should be just hired for their expertise. The same way Medicare hires private insurance companies to administer their program, but they have no financial stake in it. So the very first thing is accept the fact that banks will happy to handle it administratively, happy to have people come into their banks, but they really can't afford to handle the risk. So that brings us back to the government and Fannie Mae, Freddie, Mack. Right now they're doing pretty well. They're actually turning a profit. The two institutions have turned over $10 billion to the government, which has been put in their general treasury. Very first thing is let's keep things going as they are. They're working fine. There's no reason for changing that. And the one change is necessary is for these three institutions to realize that they do not own these profits that are made right now. These profits have to be put in reserve for the future, for the time when things are not going to go so well. So that's the very first thing. If we make $10 billion again next year, that goes into reserve. The federal government does not get it. Next, we have to recognize that it is no favor to the individual who takes on a mortgage to get a mortgage that they cannot pay back, or that they can pay but with such difficulty that it poisons the nature of their life. So what we have to do is simply do very strict underwriting. We want to give out loans that are appropriate, that can be paid back, period. The matter of that it's going to hit certain minorities or people who don't have much money hard, that they will not be able to get loans. Well, that's that's bad, but we don't want to be doing anything that is actually injurious. So hard principles. The people who make the loans should be able to make them so that Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac are happy with them, and that also securities are written honestly. Securitization right now is a necessary evil. It's something we feel squarely about, and it makes it difficult for a homeowner who is under financial stress to know exactly who to go to. So this is something to iron out so that the homeowner is followed properly through their mortgage. But we owe an honest evaluation to the people who buy the securities. They're not just faceless people, they're real people. And so the standards should be kept up and kept up rigidly. Just one other interesting thing, we talked about the disparate effect upon minority groups. One really terrible thing that was happening during the recent disaster was that banks would be seeing people from minority groups, and where they actually qualified for the loan, but they were sending them on to lenders who are associated with them, who would give them a higher rate. This is inexcusable. So a technical change is that when the loans are written, fine. If they're denied, the applicant should be given all the paperwork and just advised to look to get the loan elsewhere, but not steered in any direction. I think this general rubric would make it affordable, and the loans that would be written are not going to be a source of danger to the whole system in the future. See you tomorrow.